be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on House Administration or their respective designees. The previous question shall be considered as ordered on the motion to its adoption without intervening motion.
The gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, for the purposes of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to the gentlewoman from Minnesota, my good friend, Ms. Fischbach, pending which I yield myself such time as I may consume. During consideration of this resolution, all time yielded is for the purposes of debate only. I ask unanimous consent that all members be given 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, today the Rules Committee met and reported a rule, House Resolution 868, providing for consideration of Senate amendment to H.R. 5746. The rule makes in order a motion offered by the chair of the Committee on House Administration or her designee that the House concur in the Senate amendment with an amendment consisting of the text of the Freedom to Vote, John R. Lewis Act. The rule provides 1 hour of debate on the motion equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on House Administration or their designees. Madam Speaker, this is about more than a bill, and it's about more than a process. This is a rescue mission to save American democracy. Because right now, we are in the midst of the most significant period of voter suppression in recent history. All across the country, in service to a lie started by the former president and spread by some in this very body, state legislatures are moving to make it harder for people to cast their ballot. Polling places are being closed so the nearest location is now miles and miles away. Early voting times are being slashed during this global pandemic, so it is now too unsafe for some people to vote. Purges of voting rolls, including faulty voter purges, are becoming more likely and more common. And strict voter ID laws are being used to disenfranchise more and more people from casting their ballots. Madam Speaker, in one state, it has even become illegal to provide voters waiting in line with food and water. That is why we're here today, because some believe that the only way for them to win is to rig an election. This is voter nullification, pure and simple. Now, many on the other side want us to turn a blind eye to all of this, just like they turn a blind eye to the insurrection and the creeping authoritarianism. Well, I'm not willing to look away. People fought and died for the freedom to vote in this country. We served with someone who nearly gave his life for the right to vote, Congressman John Lewis. He was beaten by mobs using baseball bats and chains, attacked by racist members of the KKK, and even thrown in jail. But still, he fought for the freedom to vote. If he was willing to withstand all that to do what's right, then certainly we can cast a vote to defend our democracy. You know, John once said, and I quote, "Change often takes time. It rarely happens all at once. In the movement, we didn't know how history would play itself out. When we were getting arrested and waiting in jail or standing in unmovable lines on the courthouse steps, we didn't know what would happen, but we knew it had to happen." End quote. Now, I don't know what will happen in the Senate, Madam Speaker, but I know that this vote has to happen because the freedom to vote is under assault. We have a system today that undermines the civil rights of the young, the poor, and those who don't look like me. It's a system that has allowed presidents to win elections despite losing the popular vote. It's a system that has allowed politicians to gerrymander their way into office. And it's a system that gives the 26 least populous states, representing just 17% of the country, the chance to derail legislation that the vast majority of Americans support. That's the reality of the Senate filibuster, Madam Speaker. And make no mistake, despite the claims by some, the filibuster is not sacrosanct. It's been changed over 161 times in the last 5 decades. And nowhere Does it appear in the Constitution of the United States? Just recently, a bipartisan group of senators came together to advance a filibuster carve-out to raise the debt ceiling. Now, I'm glad that they did. That was the right thing to do. A default would have been catastrophic for our economy. Certainly, allowing a carve-out for voting rights is also the right thing to do. We need to pass the Freedom to Vote John Lewis Act to ensure that every American has the ability to make their voice and vote heard in our democracy. And I wish we could get a majority of Republicans to support voting rights. You know, they used to. The Voting Rights Act was reauthorized 4 times with overwhelming bipartisan support, including in 2006 under the presidency of Republican George W. Bush. But something's changed. This isn't your grandfather's Republican Party anymore. It is a party defined by the big lie, wild conspiracy theories, and winning elections by trying to suppress the vote. To set a standard that we must act on this bill or that the Senate should act on filibuster reform only if Republicans come along is a fool's errand. On what planet, Madam Speaker, are the people causing the problem going to help solve it? Now, I'd rather be on the side of John Lewis than cast my lot with the big lie. I'd rather go it alone to defend our democracy than do nothing together. And yes, I'd rather lose an election than win by rigging the outcome. This fight may not be new, but it has never been more urgent. History is watching, Madam Speaker, and this moment is bigger than any of us. With the future of our democracy in the balance, I pray that my colleagues join me in saying the same and supporting this rule and the underlying measure. And with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman